messing around with my sunflowers, um, doing harvesting them, getting the seeds out, gonna put them in my big containers so that they can dry out. But I just sit here and chat for a little bit because I'm bored. I was just thinking about the story this one time at band camp. I never went to band camp, but whenever my brothers and sisters, whenever we talk about um, childhood stuff, we always say one time at band camp, even though it really happened. We like to say it like that. But anyway, one time when, I don't know, I think I was like 10, my brother was like 8, my sister was like 6. We lived in Riverton, Oregon. And while we were living in Riverton, we wanted to build a fort, and we didn't have any supplies or anything like that. So my brother and I came up with this idea that we would build it in the blackberry briars, and then we would just, once we got our tunnel built, we would get in there and we'd pick off all the thorns and stuff so that we didn't get poked while we were in there. And usually we used to pick the thorns off and lick the back of them and stick them to our face, and it made our face look like we had a bunch of thorns all over them. But anyway, we used to do that. And then it was pretty funny because my brother he had an old tent pole, and he was like whacking the briar bushes so that he could make a tunnel for us to go in. And I guess my 6-year-old sister, my brother's name is Chevy and my sister's name is Krishana. So my brother, Chevy, he was whacking the bushes, and I guess she'd come up behind us, and he accidentally hit her on the head, and it split the top of her forehead open. So we went running in to get my mom, and my mom did not allow us all to go to the hospital at the same time. That was like not ever gonna happen. It happened one time and then never happened again. Anyway, so she was freaking out, and they had to take my sister to the emergency room. She had to get some stitches in her forehead, and she has like a lifetime calic from it. But we got home, my brother was really, it was an accident. Like, I didn't know she was there. My mom was like, why didn't you? Why weren't you watching out? Blah, 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 blah. I was standing next to my brother looking at the same thing he was looking at. I didn't know she was behind us. So then the next day, my brother and I, it might have been like a day or two after. I don't know if it was the next day or the day or two after, but we were outside, Chevy and I, and we were building roads in the dirt with cars out in front of the house. And my sister came out, and she was like, he was trying to kill me, blah, 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 blah. And he wasn't. It was a complete accident, but of course my sister's psycho. So then we were playing cars, and she was like, oh yeah, I want to play too. And we were like, okay. And I was thinking, oh yeah, this is good. Everybody's getting along, and like, this was just an accident. She's feeling better, blah, blah. And then I was just building roads with the dirt. Like, I wasn't really paying attention. Like, everything seemed fine. And then the next thing I know, my sister hit my brother in the face with a sledgehammer. I don't know how she even got a hold of a sledgehammer. I don't remember seeing it. Nothing. I didn't actually see her hit him because I was head down building roads in the dirt. And I scream, my mom comes running out. My brother has to be taken to the emergency room. Um, my mom's like, "Why were you watching them?" Blah 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 blah. And everything happened so fast I didn't see it. So then my brother goes to the emergency room, and then I remember uh, shortly after, a few days later or whatever, when my brother was feeling better, um, we were out fire bushes, and my brother was like, "We need to build an escape hatch." A back way out of here just in case something happens, you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh. And my brother and sister were always like that. Like I have no stories where they injured me or I injured them. But let me tell you what, my brother and sister, and people said, oh, it's because they were too close in age. We were all 2 years apart. All of us. They just, and they're very close even to this day, you know, like they they're closer to each other than I am to them. But oh my gosh, they would constantly do stuff like that. And the reason why my mom didn't allow us to go to the hospital when one of us was injured is because when I was 7 and I had gotten hit by a semi truck, uh, I had a lot of surgeries and things like that, and my brother and sister were to a lot of these appointments that I had to go to. But anyway, one time I think it was in Eugene. It was a children's hospital way back then. And I was there. They were checking the usage of my leg. And it was like in a cast, a big old cast that went from my hip all the way to the tip of my toe. And they had to cut pieces of it out so that they could see my knee, because it was my knee that was massively injured. And so they had me on the table. I was face down. I was like 7. Yeah, I was about 7. And the door was just slightly, a nurse came in and she was standing there talking to my mom or whatever. And my brother and sister were out in this little lobby area where the siblings of the kids who were injured could, wait. And we had, like, my aunt was out there too. And so she had just popped in to ask my mom something real quick, but I could see my brother past the nurse that was holding the door open. And my brother could see me, and I was, face down on the table. And with, there was like some machine up above my head or whatever. I really couldn't see what was hand on the machine. The machine was not turned on. It was like something that came down, or maybe it was a light. I don't know what it was. But I remember seeing my brother's face, and I remember the horrified look on his face, and he screamed, "Oh my God, they're gonna cut her leg off." And as soon as he screamed that, there was like this deafening silence for just a split second. And then I shot off that table. I had grabbed the edge of the table with both my hands, and I shot off that table like a penguin, just straight off on my belly onto the floor. Landed on the floor, and I'm doing everything I can to scramble out the door. My mom, the doctor, the nurse are all trying to. Kids in the lobby started screaming hysterically. Like, kids were running everywhere trying to find escape. And these are all little kids, not bigger kids. These are all little kids. All these kids are screaming and crying. All this crying started happening. I'm fighting my mom and the doctor and the nurse with every ounce of my being, trying to get away from them, because my brother was just like, I believed him. I 100% believed everything my brother said. And Oh my gosh, it was my mom. I remember the drive home, and we lived a long ways. It was like 3, 4 hours home. I remember the whole way home, she was just telling us how horrified and embarrassed that she was, and that um they were gonna cut my leg off, and because they couldn't do anything. My mom had to make a whole different appointment. I had to come back later at a later date. It was a long drive. My mom told us we were never ever, she's never ever taking us to any kind of a hospital like that together again, that they were going to go to babysitters while I finished my getting my leg repaired. And the fact that me getting my leg repaired was not just a one-time thing. It was going to be, I had a lot to do with the leg. So my mom couldn't have us kids being all crazy like that and scaring other little kids and da 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 da. And then I remember one time my brother and I were standing out in the yard. We lived in Bandon then. We were teenagers. I think I was like 15. I could have been 14. And my brother, like I said, Chevy's 2 years younger than me. We were standing there, and we were supposed to be cleaning the yard. And we were obviously, just messing around or whatever. And he picked up this big rock, and I don't know why he did it, but Bruce, no. He threw it up into the air, and it came back down and it hit himself in the middle of his head. Smacked him right in the middle of his forehead. And so then split his head right open, and he was wearing, I'll never forget, he was wearing a pair of white Levi's, and then he had this pink and white weird shirt. It was really light colored pink and white, and I mean his head just blew open. Shut my door because my dog just opened it. Anyway, and as you can see, then he came out. That's Brucifer. So I go running in the house, telling Mom we have to go to the emergency. That Chevy cracked his head open, and she slipped up that time. I mean, there were many times when one of us had to go to the emergency room, and she was like, "All right, the other two get in the house." And we had to stay in the house until she got home. But that time, she slipped up. We all got in the car and started driving. The hospital was like 7 miles away. It wasn't that far. And we were cracking jokes and goofing off and just being stupid in the car. And my mom's freaking out. Like, she's yelling at us, to knock it off. And it was mostly me and Chevy were just like cracking all these jokes. And I don't even remember what the jokes were, but I remember we were just laughing so hard that we literally couldn't stop laughing. And we get about a block from the hospital, maybe 2 blocks. And right behind Dairy Queen, we were on that road just past Dairy Queen. And my mom pulls over. This is the old hospital in Bandon. My mom pulls over, and she kicks me and Chevy out of the car and tells us that we can walk to the hospital, that she's not putting up with our shenanigans anymore. Da, da, da. So my brother's bleeding profusely from his forehead, and we're having to walk, and we were laughing all the way. And then when we get to the hospital, the nurses were already coming outside, because apparently Mom had told them that we were not far behind her. And my mom was like so stressed out and so upset that the doctor had to give her a sedative or whatever it is that makes her loopy. We had to call our neighbor to come pick us all up. And my brother was like, oh my gosh, he had like a couple stitches in his head. But we've done a bunch of stupid stuff like that. Not really so much me. Mostly I was a witness to stuff, and I would get in trouble for witnessing it. Like I had some sort of control over how my brother and sister would attack each other. I can't tell you how many times I came into the house where my brother and sister would be in a full-on brawl on the floor, rolling around, him choking her, her choking him, um, just beating each other senseless over who knows what. Those two were always fighting over some kind of, I can only remember a few times that I got in fights, physical fights with them. And it was usually, I don't know, we mostly blackmailed each other. We had so much dirt on each other all the time that it was just, one day my mom literally told me, I think I was like 16. And we were, I don't know, we were just hanging out in the living room or whatever. And my mom just pops off out of nowhere with, it's ridiculous how much you guys blackmail each other. It's like, you don't think that I don't know all your secrets? It was really funny. I don't know. She was a funny lady. My mom's name was Kat. She was a great lady. Well, I've gotten quite a few of the sunflowers de-seeded. I like to de-seed them outside because they make such a mess. I'll sit here and just rub them off. Rub the seeds out of the, I don't know if you can see, there's the seeds are already drying. So, I don't know, I thought I'd do a live. I don't even know if the reception is good, because I've recently discovered, when I did a live last time, I tried to do a live while I was walking, and it was like going in and out, in and out. It was a terrible live. So then I thought, oh my goodness, I'll try this. Oh wait, your live stream, are you gonna eat them? No, I plant them the next day, or not the next day, the following year, and I mail a lot of seeds to friends and families all over Oregon, and try to get as many people as I can to plant sunflowers everywhere they go, because it's a food staple, and it's great for the wildlife, like deer, even cattle, squirrels, birds, rabbits, chipmunks. I don't know what, all kinds of animals eat the sunflowers, and sunflowers are usually done August, September, October, and it gives them plant-based protein for the winter. And then there's less starving animals in the winter. They're less likely to cause destruction and stuff if there's plenty of sunflowers, plenty of food. And since, people don't really plant as much anymore, I just try to encourage at least sunflowers. I mean, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to cultivate. You can just let them grow and then let them drop their seeds, and then the next year they'll come back. Birds will carry them off. Deer will eat them, poop the seeds out in the forest, whatever. And then it gives them more of a food-based, some food out in the wild where they actually live. I mean, we cut down so many trees, acorns, and we take away a lot of food from the wildlife, and then that's why they come in to the towns a lot. I mean, coming into our town's not a big deal because, it's a small town. But if you can get the animals to stay more out in the forest, if there's enough food out there for them, that would be better. Be less accidents on the road because they wouldn't be traveling so much to try to, come and look for food. I don't do it with just sunflowers. I try to think of other stuff that can be utilize. Like there's that Love Lies bleeding. That's a really good food staple, but it's not so good for animals, I guess. Although, you know, that's what Google says, so who knows, because Google lies a lot. I have to reword every question I ask Google. I have to reword 3 or 4 different ways in order to try to even get some kind of truth off of it. It's like really weird. I wonder how you can see every once in a while can I see a comment pop up. I'm not sure how this works. So, and I can't touch the screen because my fingers are all sticky. From sunflowers do have kind of like a little resin that will stay on your fingers when you're popping the seeds out of the head of the sunflower. So it kind of makes your fingers get sticky. So I don't like to touch anything when I'm doing this. I wash my hands prior to doing this, which is funny. And then I wash my hands after too. Just because I'm a hand washer. I wash my hands all the time. Constantly. I have to even be careful about the soap I buy because I've given myself rashes and stuff from washing my hands too much, which I didn't think was possible, but when I went to the doctor, he said, oh yeah, it's possible. You wash your hands way too much. So either stop touching a lot of dirty stuff or, you know, like get a more mild soap. So I use mild soap. Weather's been pretty good. It's been in the 80s. It's been tolerable to be outside wandering around in my garden, which I am not a professional anything. I do know a little bit more about sunflowers just because I've been growing sunflowers since 2015 and just all the different things that I've tried and the different, I've grown probably about 10 or 20 different kinds of sunflowers. There's 70 different kinds. And I'm not even, like I said, maybe 20, you know. And then it's also, depending on how the bees pollinate, they'll change some of your sunflowers. You know, they'll change color on them. Like I have Italian whites and lemons, and then the red velvets. And then sometimes if I plant those close together, the seeds will come out half Italian white, half red velvet or lemon, you know, like they'll come out. And yes, the lemon sunflowers, which is probably one of my favorites, do have kind of like a little lemony taste to them. And yeah, you can eat them, but when I eat sunflowers, I only eat the Russian mammoths because those seeds are massive. I mean, they're big seeds, and it's the only time it's really worth your time. All the rest of the sunflower seeds are pretty small and not worth washing, drying out, soaking in salt, drying them out again, and then cracking them open and eat them. You want big sunflowers. You want them to be at least the size of your pinky nail. Like you want to have a nice where you can only fit like 5 to 10 in your mouth instead of 20 or 30. The ones they sell at the store are standard sunflowers. Those grow about 6 feet generally. And they do produce probably about 1,000 sunflower seeds a head. But if you do a Russian mammoth, you're getting, you know, over 1,000 seeds, and the seeds are massive. And it makes your harvest really fast. I usually, like when I grow my Russians, I only grow maybe a handful of them, and then I keep 1 or 2 of the heads, and then I usually I'll like walk around town with my my wagon, and just give out the whole heads to anybody who wants to grow sunflowers. And what's great about sunflowers is if the birds don't get to the seeds or whatever, but if you just throw them on the ground, you don't even have to bury them. They'll grow themselves if the birds don't know of your little spot. Now the birds have gotten used to it because this is like the third or fourth year I've grown them. So they're like, yeah, this lady has lots of sunflowers. So they'll come and pick on my sunflowers quite a bit. And they do leave a mess, you know, they'll leave, but I don't care. You know, the shells can go back. They decompose and it just goes back into the ground anyway. But, you know, I wish I could walk around my town with doing a live, but the internet out here is just so iffy. You just can't rely on it for, you know, which makes sense because, I mean, I'm 50 miles from La Pine, and that's where, you know, the closest place that you can really get any kind of supplies. You can get some from Christmas Valley, but it's not very much bigger than us. I guess there's a lot more people there, but I don't know. I don't ever hardly see anybody there. They do have a couple restaurants, and I've gone there, and every time I've gone there, there's been less than 5 people in the restaurant. And that's including the waitress and the cook. So, and usually, because my friend that takes me to dinner every now and again, she's friends with the owners of that particular restaurant. So, but good news is my friend she just bought a truck, and she's really excited about it. And it's a Toyota Tacoma. And I was like, oh my gosh, you have to take me on a test drive. She's like, I want to go on a drive so bad. Because she just got it like yesterday. And I said, okay, but if we go on a drive and I see any big sticks or rocks and you have a truck, I want some big sticks, like some big logs or whatever. Oh, which also reminds me, my son is opening up a business out here. My son and son-in-law, they went and got their permits yesterday, and then they got their map of the area all the area that they can do. And because there's a lot of dead snags and school marms and widowmakers and all kinds of trees right along the Deschutes forest. If you look at some of my shorts videos, you can see that the Forest Patrol has not been, the Oregon Forestry has not been keeping it clean. But, so there's like a lot of dead stuff, and so they can get permits to go out and cut the wood. And then we have a lot of elderly people that live out in our area, and that we all have wood stoves out here. So he's gonna go and cut up the wood, bring it back here, block it up or whatever you call it, cut it up into cords, and sell it out here. It'll be softwood, hardwood, like that kind of stuff. And a lot of people, we've had quite a few people asking us, you know, hey, is your son, because my son's a logger, and but we just wanted him to kind of stay central home for a bit, you know, like more time with the family. Our family's been we've been meeting together a lot more, having more family get-togethers, outings. We have family that's coming from all over here, from all over Oregon, California, and Nevada. And we've just been, you know, football season. My ex-husband's really into sports, so he takes all the grandkids, like his twin brother, his kid, my son, my grandkids, like that kind of stuff. They all get together and go to different football games or whatever, golfing, whatever thing that they decide to plan. And they come out here, they meet here, and then they go from that, weddings, that kind of stuff. There's just been a lot of stuff been going on, so the family's been meeting together a lot this year. Like this year more than last year, probably 15 times more than last year. So, like, and plus they can come here, they don't have to pay anything. They can just stay for free. It's the gas that they spend coming. And then we have big barbecues, big dinners, because they're all into cooking. They're like chefs and stuff. I'm not into cooking. I do not cook. I do not cook anything. I'll make myself an egg, sandwiches, like that kind of thing. I'm not big on sandwiches though, but I do like a BLT. But I usually wait until like my son-in-law's cooking up bacon before I eat that. I don't go out of my way to um, make bacon or anything. I don't go out of my way to cook anything. I just go down to the Buzzy Bee and have Ashley cook me something. But usually my daughter or my son or my son-in-law. There's 3 different cooks here on the property. Somebody's making something and I can just eat that. So anyway, this has been a half an hour. I want to go and check to see if if it's freezing, if it works, if the live works, if it doesn't work. I don't know. I can't really see much out here. It's hard to see. I'm in the shade, but even in the shade, I can't touch the screen because of my sticky fingers. But I do want to finish this last sunflower that I'm working on. I have a whole container full of them, but I'm going to finish up this last one. I don't know if there's like many lives. It is Sunday, but my congregation isn't meeting today or Tuesday, because they're at a convention and I couldn't go because it's too far to travel and my car's on the fritz. My SUV, my SUV's name is Fritz too, but I have to get like the tie rods or whatever. My son has to tear apart my car. He doesn't want me driving it while it's acting suspicious to him. So I have to wait till my parts come in the mail, and then he's going to do that. So my Jetta's name is Betty, and my SUV's name is Fritz. I don't know if you guys name your vehicles, but I've always named my car ever since my very first one. They've all had names. And Fritz causes me a lot of... I mean, it's a good car. It works good. You have to make repairs. And I did buy it used. I paid $3,000 for it. I have 350,000 miles on it. Like the few things this year so far, I've had to replace the alternator and I guess the tie rods or whatever. But after I replace those, I should be good to go for quite a while. And we decided, like, we looked it up, and it's like literally cheaper just to buy a new engine than it would be a new car. So I'm just going to run this engine, because I mean I have 350,000 miles. So I'm going to run this engine until it goes, and then my son will just drop a new engine in the SUV, and we'll see how it goes. I mean, I only paid $3,000 for it. It's not that big of a deal. It's a nice little car. Looks like my son-in-law's coming over. I hope he doesn't want anything. Hopefully he's just going to the garage. If not, because, oh, yeah, he was just going to the garage. Thank goodness. I don't know if you can see him. I live on the other end of the garage. My garage is 60 feet by 23 feet, and then I sectioned off 23 feet by 20 feet for my studio apartment. And then I'm adding, well, my dream is to spend $5,000 that I don't have right now. But my dream is to spend $5,000 on a sunroom that's 20 feet by 8 feet. So it's 8 feet wide, 20 feet long. And then I'm going to divide that into 2 rooms. One will be like my formal living room. And then the other end will be my art room. And, oh man, they're working on the truck. They're putting a flatbed on the back end of it. So they're like making a bunch of noise. But anyway, I'm going to do that, and then I'm going to be able to do my art again. I haven't been able to paint in a long time because I really don't have the space for it. Getting out all my materials, my easel, all that kind of stuff, it's just too hard, and it makes me uninspired. So I figure if I got, I'm retired from painting commissions, but that doesn't mean that I don't still want to paint something that I want to paint. So I thought it would be really cool, and my goal in the future to have my, I guess it's a sunroom. I don't know what they call it, but to have one of those, and then I'll have my art room set up in the back of that, and then hopefully I can find a really good spot to be able to get really good reception, and then I can just socialize with you guys and paint my paintings, and you guys can, you know, make fun of my artwork or crack jokes, take turns naming. I name every painting, so you guys could take turns naming paintings and looking at some of my paintings, or, you know, talking about what I'm painting or whatever. They do want to do, oh my gosh, they are so loud. I don't know if it's drowning me out or what the deal is, because they are super loud. But they rarely have, they're so excited about their new business. They're building their own truck. The truck's all done. They're just putting they built their own flatbed for it and their own, you know, how they're going to do it. And they got they're gung-ho. And I'm excited for them because, you know, like, my son-in-law wants to do it until my son has his business completely up and running. And then my son-in-law doesn't know what kind of business he wants to open up. So he wants to do a different kind of a business. And then my son will help him do his business, and they're helping them do each other. They all get along really good. I'm very, very blessed with good kids, good son-in-law, good grandchildren. I'm really blessed with all that because there's some scariness going on out there. I can't believe how many sunflower seeds I've done in, what is this, 40 minutes? It's not bad. I only had one viewer the whole time though. I'm pretty sure it was just Billy. But, which I really appreciate, like him coming over to my channel. I was hoping that kind of like I would get a new group of people that might want to check out my channel. I have noticed that like I look at, you know, YouTube suggestions and all that kind of stuff for your channel, and I don't want to do clickbait titles. I don't want to do clickbait weird thumbnails. I don't want to be like everybody else trying to do what YouTube wants them to do. It's like cloning one channel after another. I wish there were just more channels that are less care about, you know, oh, this title or the thumbnail or all that kind of stuff. I wish more channels were just more relaxing, more less fake. I really like Belly's channel. I do want to throw that out here. He's got a good thing going. He's got a good, it's not all natural. It's just him. He's not doing, you know, desperate things to get views. It's very down to earth, talking to people. You know, the people that are out there on the street, which, you know, like they usually know what's going on before everybody else does as far as what's happening on the street. And, you know, printing the truth out there instead of pretending like everything is great everywhere, which we know that that's not true. Like, the economy is really hurting people. It's only going to get worse, not better. I mean, it's going to get worse underneath this administration. I mean, I don't know. It could have already been going bad, and now it's just gotten a lot worse. But there's a real big disconnect with people and caring about each other and looking, you know, everybody's looking to fight and rob each other and stuff. So Deli's channel, him being on the ground, being connecting with people, keeping that socialization going, because socialization helps people treat people better, because you recognize them as human beings. And when you have people recognizing each other as human beings, that's a good trend. And connecting people, helping people find each other, because there's nothing worse than not knowing what happened to a loved one. And that's like hero stats, like helping people find their loved ones. I can't even imagine the fear and anxiety that somebody feels when they can't find somebody that they care deeply about. Like, it's scary not knowing what happens to people. And I think it's really cool that Belly Ray's channel helps people find each other and reconnect each other and help people, you know, possibly get people off the streets, you know, let them know that people care about each other, that they are loved. Like, that's so important. It's a very important channel. Very, very important channel. And I see good things for it getting bigger and more recognition and setting a really good example on, you know, what channels could be. I don't understand why people watch mommy vlogs and stuff, because those people haven't even raised their kids. You know, their kids are just little. Like, they have no experience. They're gaining their experience right while they're having their kids. If you're gonna listen to people who've had children, listen to somebody who's like a grandma, somebody who's, you know, had 10 kids and how they dealt with it. Not necessarily how they're dealing with it right now, but how did they feed large families. Like, those are good things to watch, because especially with food prices today, I've had to cut back on so much of my fruit. I mean, it's good that I can grow vegetables, but I always look at fruit as like my cake. It's my ice cream. I will sit there and eat a whole thing of raspberries, no problem. Blackberries, blueberries. I get sick of bananas because I eat a lot of bananas like in the winter and stuff because there's not a lot of other stuff available. And then my strawberries, I can't even let a strawberry grow in my yard. The second I see a little bit of redness, I'm out there just chomping it down. I do the same thing with my carrots. That's why I have to grow so many carrots, is because if I go out in the yard to play, I don't want to go in the house to go make myself something to eat. I'll just plop up the carrot, dust it off, and chomp away like a rabbit. And I want more stuff like that. I can't wait till my plum trees, my apple trees get big enough that I can just stand there and eat those too. And strawberries. Oh, and then next year, I don't know if I'll actually get any blooms. I hope I do. But next year I'll have those thornless blackberries and those thornless raspberries. The raspberries do look like they're going to make it. I transplanted them this summer. They went through a really, really tough transition. But they're looking really, really good. So I'm hoping that next year those thornless raspberries will be fun to munch on. And then the thornless blackberries. And then I'm not going to try, I don't think I'm going to do eggplant. Try growing eggplant again. Because it didn't really, like the bush grew, but no eggplant grew. And nobody knows if they even like eggplant. And then I have my green onions, which everybody loves because I do have really good green onions. I mean, they smell so good that you just want to, every time I give them out to my neighbors when I'm walking away, my neighbor is taking a bite out of the green onion as she's walking into the house. Every time they do that. They're like, oh, they're so good. They're so crisp. They're just really tasty. And I used to not be a big green onion fan, but when I started growing my own green onions, they do smell amazing. And I do enjoy eating them. And then my garlic next year should be super amazing because I found, when I was out hiking, I found a wild garlic flower that just had tons of seeds. And I was like, no way. I pulled up the whole garlic clove to make sure, and it was a big, beautiful garlic clove. It tasted fantastic because I do taste those. And the seeds were just amazing. They are so big and nice looking. So I planted those already. So next year I should start seeing the garlic. And I mean, I must have planted 50 garlic seeds. And I hope to get like a little cluster of big cluster of garlic because I know that my neighbors will love that with the green onions. And then my potatoes this year were super small. And things that I've learned about my potatoes is I really don't like growing them in the ground. It's annoying to try to dig them out. I usually end up really messy, and it's like wait till the last minute because it's no fun doing those. So I'm going to do potatoes next year in 5-gallon buckets. I think that is, you could buy the bags, but I don't have extra money for that kind of stuff. So I do have 5-gallon buckets because we, bought a lot of paint when we first moved here and had to repaint the inside of the house because it was really rough looking. So we just bought white paint, Kills, and, just to give everything a fresh look before we started, doing everything else. And I live in the garage, so it took quite a bit of white paint to cover the plywood walls, because the walls are plywood and they're not drywall, they're plywood. Some of them are drywall because I had to fill some areas in, but not very much of it is. So I have lots of white buckets, and those can be utilized. And they're just sitting around, and we were just talking about how we can, what are the best ways to, what we can use them for. And I think we have like 8 of them. One my daughter wants to keep for a weed bucket because she likes to use the 5-gallon bucket for a weed bucket. I have a wagon I pull around for when they do weeds, but Krisha likes to have her own bucket that she packs around and likes to fill that. So she decided to use one for weeds. I use one to pick up my dog's poo-poo kachoo. I put a garbage bag in it, and then I have this claw machine type thing that picks up my dog's poo-poo kachoo because, you know, he's a pit and it's not small stuff. And then, so we're going to use one for that, one for weeds for my daughter, and then I'll have about 6 buckets left over. I don't think I want to do 6. There's 7 of us, but I don't need that many potatoes because with potatoes, you get quite a bit off of one potato that you plant in the ground. So what I want to do is just have one bucket, or not one bucket, maybe 3 or 4 buckets of potatoes, and then plant them, like plant one potato, and then 2 weeks later plant another one in a different bucket, and do them 2 weeks apart. That way I can move them if I need to easily. I can move them to a different part of the yard or whatever. Potatoes really don't care. Like, they're not like really high maintenance vegetables. They're like the low maintenance. They're like kind of like carrots or green onions. They're real low maintenance. So I figure if I do a couple of those buckets, then I don't have to give away so much, you know, because we can't eat everything at one time. And the potatoes do last a little bit longer, but still sometimes there's just too many. And honestly, the Yukon Gold is the ones that I like growing, as far as I've tried several different kinds of potatoes. And the Yukon Golds are, I think, give me the best for my time and energy. The Yukon Golds are like the better deal. And then that way I can just, when I go to harvest them, I can just dump the bucket out and into whatever dirt pile or whatever flower bed that I want to, you know, throw the dirt into, and then bam, easy cleanup. And the thing about potatoes is easy to cover. They take frost really well. So, you know, I can bring them into the garage if they're not finished late in the season. If I can bring the whole bucket into the garage, and or I can put like a little terrarium plastic cover over the top and make it like a little greenhouse for each bucket. Or, you know, there's so many options with doing it that way that I'm running with that instead of taking up space in one of my flower beds. I would much rather do the buckets of potatoes. And I did look into buying the bags. I just can't afford the bags. And honestly, the buckets are way more durable and like just easier. The bags are kind of floppy a little bit. And I don't know if that, you know, when they're wet, or if that has anything to do with it. You know, like if you have to wait till they're, I don't know. The buckets look easier to move around than those bags. And it's easier to get buckets anyway. Buckets are practically free than you are using them from other projects. So I'm going to do that for potatoes, and then I am going to grow pumpkin, watermelon again. This will be the third year that I've tried to grow watermelon, and I can get it to, you know, really nice vines, big beautiful flowers. I can get bees to get near them, but for some reason I can't get myself a watermelon. I don't know what I'm doing that's not, maybe it's the soil, I don't know. So I'm gonna keep trying, because the first year my daughter tried and she got like a little tiny watermelon and it was super cute. And then it just didn't get any bigger. And we think it's because it wasn't getting enough light. So I definitely know it has to be in full sun. And I'm going to try it in a different spot next year, because I can hell or high water am growing watermelon. I don't like watermelon a lot. So I'm going to try it again. And I've tried different watermelons too. I've tried 4 different kinds, including the yellow kind that's supposed to be really sweet. But all I can get is the bushes. But that happened to me with pumpkin too. When I first started growing pumpkin, I only got 1 pumpkin. And my dog, Bruce, kept thinking it was his toy. And so he'd run up to it and bite it to pick it up. And as soon as his mouth would go around it, he would let go. So it had like a million teeth marks. And it never got very big. And then this year, I've got a bunch of pumpkins. And they are getting big. And they do look great. And it is working. So I don't know what I am doing off that's from the watermelon different than the pumpkin. But where I have pumpkin this year, I'm going to plant watermelon next year. And move my pumpkin again to a different spot. And just try to go with that. I did learn, though, with the pumpkin, that by cutting the big leaves off does give my pumpkin more sun, and it does make my pumpkins grow bigger. And also cutting the vine at the end, cutting off that last flower, makes a big difference too. I did learn that this year with pumpkin. And it's not that I've learned it from any particular channel, because I don't. I do my own testing on stuff. Like, the pumpkin was just getting out of control. I like to sweep my sidewalk. And I couldn't sweep my sidewalk with my push broom because my pumpkin was growing on my sidewalk. So I nipped it off. And then within 3 or 4 days, my pumpkins were way bigger. It just like did a lot for it. So then I was like, oh, well, I'm going to try that over here. So then I went over to my other pumpkin patch and I chopped that up real good, because I struggled with that one, trying to get my Swiss chard out of it, because Swiss chard was growing in the middle of that flower bed when the pumpkins decided to grow. So I decided to chop that all up so I could see my chard a lot better. And all of a sudden I ended up with, like, I think I've got like 8 pumpkins over there. And I'm like, whoa. So next year I know to do it way earlier, to cut the leaves back a lot earlier. And I'm assuming that you do the same thing with watermelon, since they kind of grow similarly. So I'm going to do that next year, and hopefully next year I will successfully have watermelon. You know, every year, like, I've tried growing celery, same thing. I've tried growing celery for 3 or 4 years now, unsuccessfully. And then all of a sudden this year, at the end of the year, of course, celery now wants to grow. So hopefully next year I will actually have celery, which will be very, very exciting for me, because I love celery. You know, the more vegetables that I can get growing in my yard, the less I have to stand in a grocery store trying to find something I'm that I'm willing to eat. Because I tell you, some of the stuff is not looking too good. And I noticed that this year in La Pine, every time I've gone, the food market has not been open. So I don't know if they changed the days that they're open, the farmer's market, or what's going on. But luckily, because mostly what I get at the farmer's market is honey. So that I like to buy local honey so that way I don't have as many sinus issues in my area. And I want to try to find somebody that lives in Silver Lake that wants to do their own bee thing. That would be cool. I would totally throw down to help them start to do bee boxes and get like a honey thing going, because oh my gosh, the honey, I can't imagine with the amount of bees that I have in my yard. That would be amazing. Like, oh man, bees produce a lot of honey. I have like massive bees in my yard all the time, and they're nice bees. They're not mean at all. I've picked one up. I work right next to them. They don't mind. The only thing I don't like is the wasps. And every once in a while, like a wasp will land on me. I usually just, if you flick it hard enough, it'll land on the ground. And then when you land on the ground, I just stomp on them. No big deal. Like if I'm wearing shoes. Not wearing shoes right now. I don't know. No shoes. But when I do wear shoes, I stomp on them. And I know when I'm not wearing shoes because 95% of the time I don't wear shoes if I'm outside. Unless I'm like going on a walk or something, because my yard is specifically designed to where I can comfortably walk around without getting any slivers or stickers or stabbing my feet. I like to walk on my dirt paths. Like, I've thought about putting gravel on those dirt paths, but then it just wouldn't be as, I don't know. I like it being dirt. I don't think I'm going to upgrade my dirt sidewalks. The wheelchairs fit up and down them perfectly. I can take anybody that comes over that can't do a lot of walking. We have two different wheelchairs depending on, their comfort level or whatever. And Serenity holds wheelchair races in my garden all the time with her friends. But you can get up and down any path. It's easy to turn around and go down to a different, if you want to turn around. I have it specifically designed that way. Plus, I play a lot of golf, putt-putt golf in my yard. So I like the dirt paths because I can make water hazards or, just like whatever I want to do. I can do that real quick. I've done so many sunflower seeds. I've almost completely finished this container, which is really good for me because usually I do about half of it. And this is going along really well, except for my fingers are super, super sticky. Like, really gross. Like, they're black and nasty. And that's what happens when you're messing with the sunflower. Sometimes I wear gloves. I didn't put any gloves on this time because sometimes there are some sunflowers that will stab you, the center part, and then there are some that won't. If you, it literally depends on how dried out they are. These are not that well dried out. They're still fairly wet. So they're more flexible. Let's see if I can show you. That's how many sunflowers I've done. This container was full. This is the pile that I've made. This is a sack from when I went out and cut the heads off. Let's see, those are my big old sunflowers. See, there's this one right there needs to come down. There's a bunch of them that need to come down, but specifically this one. And there's one over here. Those are Russian mammoths. Those are probably, see, 14, maybe 16, 17 feet tall. I don't know. This one's pretty tall, though. This one's probably maybe 10 or 12 feet. This is the one that's like right in front of my door. See? All right. But I'm going to end this because my battery just now said that I only have 15%. But thank you so much. I'm so happy that I had a few people. I appreciate it. All right, bye.